So hi everyone, welcome back to the Sanctuary Shattersun developer Q&As. This is now episode 2. I'm Al and I'm one of the community managers, and I'm joined today by Mike, known to all of you as 9-2, and I'm going to head straight into the questions. So question 1, Mike, how are you?
Right. Yeah. No, I'm good. Thank you, Al. Busy. Always busy, but doing good.
A nice easy question to lead us in. So development's
Yeah.
going well? Everything's
Yeah.
plain sailing?
Full bore ahead.
Okay, good. Question 2. Okay, so in an interview, Chris Taylor said he would now do networking completely differently, and our questioner would love to know how we can avoid desync lag and the slowest computer dictating the simulation speed of the game.
Yeah. So what Chris said was that it's possible to do it differently. Back in those days, it wasn't possible. So now it is possible. And there's all that lockstep stuff that people used to do, which is magical programming mumbo jumbo that makes overcomes the networking limitations to allow you to be able to send lots of data. That's what it does. But the programming is pretty crazy. It's a lot more expensive to write. So if you do it in that style. So what we were talking with Chris about is that it's because the internet has gotten so much better since the good old days of RTS, you no longer have to go to those extreme lengths. You can build things in a more straightforward way. It uses way more data, way more, like infinity more data across the internet. But now that's actually a possibility. Back in Chris's day, it just wasn't. So what our team is doing is we're kind of doing a hybrid of that. We do some stuff in lockstep and some stuff not in lockstep. And we kind of get the best of both worlds. So we cut down on heaps of the data, but only in a few key areas, because like 90% of the data is like units moving and stuff like that. So you can lockstep that bit out only. And then everything else is just like the data gets streamed. And this is good. And it does some cool things. Like besides the fact that it's cheaper to build the game, which is really important because we can actually build it. There's a big downside to lockstep, and that is all the computers are running the entire game, right? Every single person who's connected, they all have to run everything. They all have to run all the physics, all the collisions, all of the pathfinding, all of the computationally expensive code. So late game, when it starts to slow down, it's because one guy's on his laptop and it can't really hack having like 5,000 units on the field, and everyone else is going fine, but everybody like slows down. So once you remove lockstep from the equation, that doesn't really matter that much anymore. Like the guy will have a bad experience because he just can't keep up with everybody, right? But the rest of the players can still play the game. And that is the advantage of not having lockstep. So, and what we're going to do is we're just going to run all the calculations on whatever the best computer is. So, we'll be able to, when the game starts up, you can run a little test on each computer, and you can work out that one there. That's the Beast computer, 64 core CPU. We're going to run the game on this one and just stream it out to the rest of you guys. And that means the Beast computer does all the calculations, and then everything will run smoothly. So that's the plan. In practice, we might end up slowing the game down anyway, because it'll just be crazy. If you get left behind, you'll never catch up, and the game will just be a disaster for you. So maybe that'll be a setting. So how to treat lagging players? Do you want to wait for them, or do you want to kick them, or do you just want them to have a chaotic half game? I don't know. We'll see.
And I suppose maybe you'd give them a window of opportunity to catch up. So it's not just going to be a straight kick. There may be an option for them to catch up.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Maybe the players can decide in game. Maybe there can be a vote or something. But I think what seems reasonable is give them a chance and to get things back together. But if they're just not going to be able to play the rest of the game, there's no point in pretending, right? They can't. So that's that. Or we can reduce the speed of the game so everyone plays at like 20% speed for the rest of the game because they can keep up with that pace. But I just think that the player should have the option, basically. So, we won't tell people how you're handling that. you handle it.
Okay, so speaking of options, the second part to that question is, will the game support peer-to-peer or LAN connections as an alternative option? And this came from one of your Chinese fans, and I think they've have major issues with connecting to servers.
Right, yeah, because probably the dominant way of connecting will be through Steam. We've already got like some Steam relay stuff sorted out. We can connect with your Steam friends and just jump into games like that. But yeah, we'll just support, like, you can connect with an IP address, so that'll work for your LAN connections that way. So a bit more of a like legacy kind of way of connecting, but I see that for those guys that would be the best. Sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's an option, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Great. Okay. Thank you. Next question. This is a big one. We might need an entire episode on this. So just be brief. What inspired the lore of Sanctuary?
Right. Well, we need to grab Avitus on a call and go through that one in detail, because like that has been, a work in progress for years. But most of the really big ideas came from him. Avitus is, I guess, just really interested in this type of stuff. He has lots of cool ideas. The big aha moment was the Dyson sphere. There was a bit of debate inside the team because some people wanted it to be like out in space, right? So we can have all these like different planets. We can have different biomes. There should be like some weird alien planet. There should be like a lava planet, all this type of stuff. Other people wanted it to be, like in Earth solar system, because you feel like tied to that, and you feel you're kind of like invested in that, right?
You have like an emotional connection, don't you, to it?
Yeah, we're kind of emotionally connected to our planet. But what ended up happening is at some point Avitus discovered this Dyson sphere thing and said, well, why don't we throw it on that? And that was this big like aha moment, because it's so big that it can support a whole bunch of biomes. You can have volcanic regions, you can even have alien regions, because like, there just could be like anything on this thing. And maybe the creators of the life forms or designers of Sanctuary, maybe one of them just like did some weird stuff over here, or, went a bit crazy for a period, and, midlife crisis made the fiberglass, sandstorm biome or whatever. So you get to keep it's the best of both worlds. You get the diversity, as well as the connection to home, and plus it just really played into the shatter thing so well. We already had the shatter idea first. We just wanted to basically like make earthquakes on the map because it would be cool, but how much cooler is it when you're falling down into the sun? It's like literally the perfect idea. So that's kind of how it all came about. As far as the plots for the individual factions, there were lots of calls talking about all that sort of stuff. But eventually we got to these factions having these identities and these purposes. There was a lot of talk about their names, and there was lots of revolutions of that. And, to be honest, we're still talking about, who exactly these guys are. And I think we will forever, basically, because their story evolves over time, right? It's not like it's a static thing. So yeah, but we should do another call with Avitus. I think that's a really fun topic, and we could even talk about some of the ideas that didn't make it. Like for a while there was like some Egyptian aspect there, and all sorts of things. So yeah,
I think there's a certain beauty in leaving certain things open to interpretation by an audience as well, isn't there? So you don't want to give them everything. Leave some things open for people to form their own ideas, opinions of what's going on and why.
Well, yeah, and I think that's just like engaging writing. If you look at like lots of cool TV shows and stuff, they don't like spell everything out for you. It's not like they just sit you down and like, here's the document that explains everything. They unfold it in a way, and you're wondering stuff, you're predicting things, you think something is for something, and then like maybe it turns out to be something else, and that's like a twist and stuff. So I think there is plenty of room in the Sanctuary story for lots of twists, lots of mystery. Not all of it needs to be spelled out, and that's what sequels are for anyway, right?
Sequels.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, that's in the business plan. Of course, there'll be sequels. When we finish Sanctuary, we will have a engine that can make not one RTS game, but like a dozen RTS games. There's all sorts of different strategy games out there of different play styles. We have all the ideas that we couldn't fit into Sanctuary because they collided with like some of our like main principles or whatever. But there's still cool ideas for another game, right? So the plan is, deliver Sanctuary, work on another game, and then go for Sanctuary 2. And, each of those will be like 2 years apart.
Okay. Right. Very interesting. So next question. So someone sent in a question that said, I've noticed that, particularly with legged units, animations sometimes don't align with their speed or direction. While it may seem minor, how important will polish like inverse kinematics and accurate treat environmental objects scaling be in the final product?
Yeah, so inverse kinematics is just where, if you look at the larger experimental units, their feet don't quite touch the ground all the time, and maybe like they're walking up a mountain and their feet are in the air or through the ground or whatever. And inverse kinematics is just some polish where we fix that up and we change the animation and make it stand on the actual ground nicely. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't know who sent that in, but they're totally right. That is missing. That would be some really nice polish. It's just, we're just still good. We're getting multiplayer up and running. That's what we're doing. We're getting multiplayer working really well. We're going to have like some awesome matches. It's going to be really good. And then we got all the time in the world to polish the game. So, the question was, what priority does it have? That's kind of like maybe like a post early access type of thing. We'd like to get up and running quicker. We'd like to do the polish later. But already we have like people playing the pre-alpha. We're getting bug reports. We've already fixed like 2 bugs over the last like 2 weeks from that. But, we just want to like get going, start getting the feedback in. That sort of level of polish, I think, can wait. People will know, like it's already fun, right? Mm-hmm. It's already fun. It already looks good. People know that's coming. We have started looking at the T5 units, which are absolutely gigantic in size, and for them, the leg problem is much, much worse. And I'm not sure they'll have legs. Maybe they'll be hover tanks and flying units. That's a practical solution to that problem for now. We'll see what happens. On the full 1.0 release, we'll have all of this, all these problems will be sorted, so we can just do different things. But for now, there's always compromise and prioritization. We just got to be practical.
And I think a lot of this, and one of the reasons why we're doing these recordings is because you need to manage people's expectations. So if you're saying we are aware there's an issue there and it is on our roadmap to fix, then people are much more accepting of that rather than just saying, this isn't working and toys out the pram.
Well, that's true, but I don't think we get much negative feedback from people who actually play the pre-alpha. All the feedback I see is actually like really good. Some people say, like the performance was, a bit not great over there or over here in this one little case or whatever. But generally, the feedback is just like, this is awesome. This is so good. This is definitely on track to being the game that I'm looking for. And, sure, we're an indie team. We're not fully resourced. We don't have, 10-cent backing the project yet. But we're doing it, man. Mm-hmm. Watch me cook.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Walter White. So, what are the design pillars of Sanctuary, and what is your primary focus?
Well, with Sanctuary, we started with the design pillars from like other RTS games that we liked. Like there was the flow economy was really important. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, clean, organized UI. We wanted to have, like, a really nice, the scale, the strategic zoom, all that type of stuff. But I think, if I had to narrow it down, I think it's the main way that Sanctuary differs to lots of RTS is just that it's about macro, not micro. I think that's a really important thing. And I think a really big focus is just on making the game digestible. Like the scale is big, right? It's not like you can build 10 units or something. You can build 100 units, or you have 100 buildings that you can build from. There's just so much to choose from, right? And other RTS games are way smaller. You have 10 structures that you can build. You have way less units that you can build. And once you give the player all this stuff, how do they process that? And that's a game design challenge, right? And if I made an RTS game with 600 units in it, what would you do with that, right? So you need a way of giving the players things in their head to structure it around. So that's why you have like Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, right? This is like you're giving them a framework and say, okay, all these guys are Tech 2 units, so they're okay, and these are Tech 3 units, so they're good, right? That type of thing. So, that follows into the UI, into the strategic icons, into like all the automation type features, like how you can have factories assist other factories, right? That is just making the game digestible. It's supporting the macro versus micro type of thing. We just want to put as much stuff into it to take away all the clicks, right? To make it easy to understand. And then once that's happening, then you can play really well, and then we can just make the game way harder. And then that's where we want to be, right? But it should never be about like how fast you can click. If that's how this game ends up, well, we did it wrong.
Yeah, it's not StarCraft 2.
Nope.
Okay. I want to add a my own bonus question on there. When you mentioned the Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, what considerations have you given to ensuring that earlier tech level units remain relevant as the tech levels progress?
Well, that'll all come out in like the balance passes and stuff like that. But I guess for now, they won't be that relevant. So the Tech 1 units probably will lose relevancy pretty quickly. Tech 3 units are obviously going to be really tough, but all the units with the cool like widgets and features and stuff, they're all in Tech 2. So I think Tech 2 will still be useful, and probably there's not even going to be a Tech 2 main unit, like a main Tech 2 tank, right? And instead there'll only be tricky units, and there'll be no clear, obvious Tech 2 thing to do. So that's where that'll kind of force you to do something. It'll force there to be lots of different options at that point. But then in Tech 3 you just get like the juggernauts or whatever. So we'll probably do that. This will all evolve really quickly once we start getting all of those balance sessions happening. We need all those like multiplayer matches, watching replays, all that sort of stuff. And then we'll start smashing that stuff out. But for now, we just have kind of like a schedule that we're working towards, which we think is like a cool way of doing it. But, we'll see.
Okay. So thanks for answering my bonus question. I like that. Will AI enemies be released on launch? Will modders be able to modify existing AI systems and improve them better from the ground up?
There's no commitment to making AI at all. We are restricted by budget, right? So we've never said that we're doing it, but we're doing it. We do have someone working on AI on the team. It does work. You can have like a skirmish match against an AI opponent. That will just get better and better over time. That's all moddable, yes. It is basically completely implemented as a mod, the AI, and it just uses the engine calls to issue orders that the UI uses. So that will most likely be in there. It's still not definite, right? Because it's all like you were talking about before with the expectations and stuff. And you'll see, like, I don't like committing to things. Things change, priorities change, dates change, all that sort of stuff. I just don't want to like go out saying things are definite when they're not. I'll lose credibility. No one will believe anything I say again. So I'd rather just say, look, I'm not sure. But like the chances are red hot in this case. Like there's almost certainly going to be an AI, and it will be moddable.
Okay. So not 100% guaranteed, but pretty much definitely going to happen.
Pretty much, yeah. Nailed it.
Okay. Yeah. So next question. Will there be more varieties of experimental nuclear silos? I think this factors into the chosen nuke launcher, which I'm showing a video of now. Are we going to see more versions of that for the other factions?
Yeah. This is under discussion at the moment. I think what's going to happen is just every faction's going to have a nuke launcher, and every nuke will just do the shatter. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Not sure. There was also talk of doing the experimental nuke silo. That's on the schedule too. We'll see how that one comes together. But hopefully we'll be able to demo another faction's nuke launcher pretty soon, because we've been doing a lot of work on that, and it's pretty freaking cool.
Which faction?
The Guard.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So in terms of these game enders, because I think the original, I've seen mention of having mirrors reflecting light from the sun and for one of the factions and all those kind of things. Are we looking at different game enders, or is the shatter function going to be consistent across all the factions?
Yeah, no, everyone will have some form of shatter, right? Shatter weapon. Everyone will have a nuke. If that's the same thing or not, I'm not sure. Everyone will have different game ender experimentals, a flying one, a floating one, a walking one, all that sort of stuff. Then you'll have your T5s, and those things are true game enders. Like, you just pretty much won't be able to kill those things at all. Like, they'll be near invincible. So that should end the game. And that's kind of what they're there for, right? They're there to just like destroy the whole map, cost $1 trillion, and just win. That's pretty much what's scheduled, right? There was heaps of talk of other cool like weapons we can have. Like you could have like a laser beam coming from under the surface, and it's like shooting upwards, and you start to see these little rays of light, and then just the whole white beam comes up and carves up the base, and there's all this stuff. We're just not focusing on those things at the moment. There's a whole bunch of cool ideas. Maybe that's for the DLC. I don't know. Let's get multiplayer working.
Okay. So where and how are you incorporating AI into the game mechanics?
Well, we just have the standard AI for like skirmish. So that's pretty much it. Personally, like, this is a little personal quest of mine. I like the idea of giving the player an AI helper. So just imagine if you're in the middle of the game and you're busy, right? Because you're doing 10 things at once. You could just select these guys and you could give it to like Terry, and Terry's like the AI that is good at like building fire bases or something, and say, yo Terry, sort out this area over here, and Terry takes your units and he defends that area and builds a fire base, right? And meanwhile you're off doing some other stuff, and you can take those units off Terry anytime you want, right? Like, you get to choose. He's like your sub commander basically, and you just have like AI helpers, and I don't know, maybe there's different ones, or they have different parameters, or maybe you can configure them and name them. I don't know. Name them Terry, all of them.
All be called Terry.
Yeah, that's a terrible name.
A terrible name.
But yeah, I think that would be a cool thing to do, and that enhances the macro thing the micro thing that I was talking about, if you can just like offload like big parts of the game, and then you can play the way you want to play. Because some people, they just want to build their little base, man. And it's like, well, they could just select the 1,000 tanks and say, yo, Terry, go kill the other guy, and it just happens. Like, I don't want to play that way, but some people do. And that would allow you to play the way you want to play. So I think that could be pretty cool. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that question about how to use the AI in the game mechanics themselves.
And I suppose there's those, as you say, there's the skirmish mode, there's those traditional methods, which you would expect to see in an RTS game. But I guess the fact that you're looking beyond that, so, well, how else can we use AI in order for quality of life features? And Terry is going to be excellent for quality of life in terms of you go and manage that particular area. And the fact that that's a consideration just shows that there's thinking beyond the traditional methodologies.
Well, let's have
for
some
AI.
traditional stuff. See, it's skirmish. We've got the survival thing that already exists. That's not really AI. It's just a bunch of units pouring in. The campaign, there's a different. They run off scripts. That's barely AI. It's more like running off game events and stuff. It's like when this happens, then build that and send that there. You can call that AI if you want. I am really interested in the idea of having like AI content, almost like an RPG, where there's like missions that get created on the fly, right? Where just on the fly, some I'm talking like a ChatGPT type AI, right? Now is it spawns a base there and there, and it says you got to go kill Captain Jake, right? And you go do that, and then it's like, oh no, Jake was a good guy, what have you done, we all hate you now. And based off your decisions, it basically just makes a plot as you go, and you can just do whatever you want, just go. It's like Skyrim, the RTS, right? You just wander around the world blowing things up, and the story writes around you. If you didn't kill Jake, then it just makes a story somewhere else. I think that could be really cool.
So almost like procedurally generated content inside the missions.
Yeah, but I mean, like the whole campaign could be procedurally generated, like as you're playing it. And I don't know if we're there yet, but I guarantee you, like my grandkids will be playing procedural RTS missions. Absolutely, 100%. So I think that could be really fun, and like think about the replayability, of that, because it's not the same every time, and the missions would change, and it could bring into like current events or whatever, like looking at the news or something. It could be inspired by new things. So that's an organically growing game now, like Sanctuary the life form.
Interesting. Okay, so are there any planned features to address the ice generated by the freeze mechanic? So what we mean by that is, will there be icebreaker ships or any other options to negate freeze?
Yeah, well, once again, we don't really know, because although freeze works in the pre-alpha, and you can play it and you can drive across the ice, and some units go under the ice, and you can put your commander under the ice and all that sort of stuff. We just haven't had the million multiplayer matches that we want to have to incorporate it to know. We talked about all that stuff. Having icebreaker ships would be good, so that it can create, it just smashes through the ice, creates a river, right? And other ships can go through it. And then if you think about it, will that also stop tanks from driving across, right? So that's cool, right? And visually, that would be like freaking cool. But it kind of goes against the macro principle. The way freeze is implemented is the map is entirely frozen or it's not. There's no middle ground. There's no half frozen section. I think it would be really hard as a player to digest it if there were different chunks of the map were frozen or not. And maybe that's not something that, maybe we don't want that. I don't know, but it suddenly sounds cool. But these are the ideas we're going to explore later on when we're a bit further ahead. But personally, I think what would be freaking amazing if the artillery shells crashing in actually cracked the ice and it just like fell in, and I can just imagine some like tank, zigzagging and stuff, and the bullets are just missing him, and like some of them are causing like the ice to cave in, and some aren't. Like that would be cool. And this is what I was saying with like sequels and stuff, right? And other games, because maybe that idea is a cool idea, right? But we don't want it in Sanctuary because it violates one of the principles. But that can go in a different game, don't you see? All these things that we're taking out of scope, they can all be in some other game. Like there's heaps of like really, really awesome ideas. Like, you could have mud, and mud slows down units, but if it's a treaded unit, it doesn't get slowed down. But a bot unit, it does get slowed down. And now there's like a real reason why would you build a tread unit instead of a legged unit? And at the moment, there's no real reason for that. It's just like, well, because you just pick one or the other. But in a different game, that could be like a really important choice. Different units excel in slightly different environments or whatever. And that's for a game where you have like 30 units on the field or something like that, or where units are on the top of cliffs and they shoot. They should have a longer range, right? Because they're up higher. That's literally, we don't want that, because there's a whole bunch of stuff like that we're just not gonna do intentionally because it's against the macro principle. But yeah, let's stuff them in a different game. So it'll come one day. There's a whole like list of ideas that went in the bin. They're all mods or other strategy games, I guess.
Okay. Next question then. Will there be a public alpha beta test on Steam before early access?
Absolutely. So the plan is to launch Kickstarter. We're just trying to get, our mission up and running, which has gone on for longer than we'd hoped, but whatever. That's the situation. So we'll finish the job on that. We'll launch the Kickstarter, and at that point, we will make that open to the world. So we have 120,000 wishlisters on Steam at the moment. Those 120,000 people will get an email saying, hey, the Sanctuary demo is like now available to play, and they'll all come, they'll play the mission, see the shadow, think it's just the best thing they've ever seen before, and then we'll pop up a video saying, hey, go join the Kickstarter. So it's there right now. So that's the strategy. We've had that strategy for like years. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And we don't know how that's going to go. Like some people just say Kickstarter's dead, man. And other people say, yeah, you're going to get $2 million and stuff like that. I don't think either of those things are true. I don't think we're going to get, like $1 million, right? I think those days are done. But I think we'll get something, and the players can sort of vote for which features make it into scope, right? Because if we don't have enough money to do the freeze, for example, then we just won't do the freeze, right? Let's just pay for the basics and stuff to get the game good and fun, and then just add all that polish, all that content, all those crazy epic features, all those things come in after that. But yes, there will be the public release, and you will get to play it before Kickstarter, right? And that'll be free, right? So you can already play some stuff on Patreon right now, but that's not the mission, right? That's just survival and stuff like that. You will get it for free. You'll be able to play. Then Kickstarter goes up, and then after that, if you back Kickstarter, you'll get access to all the updates and stuff. Then there'll be an early access, and that'll be paid. You'll have to pay money to buy the game at that point. And then we'll just be adding layers and layers and layers of boss until the 1.0. And that's the battle pan. Battle pan. That's the battle pan.
The battle pan. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Watch me cook.
Okay, Walter White. So, final question then, Mike. All right. How exactly did you get together as a team? How did your paths cross? And how can
Right.
Okay, you answer that bit, then I'll come back to the final part of that question.
Sorry. Well, I think we covered that pretty good in one of our previous videos. I guess your question, they probably asked a question before that video came out, but we did that Crayons to Creations video where we sort of covered like all the early days of Sanctuary. But just to recap it really quickly, I did a bunch of videos interviewing the old Subcom devs saying how would you build Subcom with today's technology, and they answered, and it got really exciting because it turns out like you used to need $20 million to build a game like this, now you don't, right? So we got all really excited. A bunch of us started talking, got together. There were 5 of us in the beginning, all who decided to put in all our effort and time and energy and join forces to make this. At the start, it was only meant to go for 6 months because we would run out of money in 6 months. But then, we got some more money, and then it was only meant to go for another 5 months, and then we got some more money, and like we're still here, man, and we're still going. Like we've ramped up. We're going harder than we've ever gone before, right? It's not like progress is slowed. Progress is just accelerating. But that's kind of how it began. And we did get some investors who bought like slices of the company, saw where we're going, and believed in us. We grew the team. We used that to hire like other people, professionals, people who had skills that we didn't have, who could raise the bar a bit more. And then this project has exploded, right? It's taken me all over the world. I've been to conventions in Germany and in Boston in America and Melbourne here in Australia. And those are like business, like meeting like industry people. You could have like 20 meetings in a day, that type of stuff, with all sorts of different like game industry business people, which is pretty interesting. And then also the public exhibiting side. Like Gamescom is crazy. There's 400,000 people in a very small amount of space. It's like absolutely phenomenal. It's amazing. But that's how it started. And I guess we'll just see where it takes us. We'll see on the launch of Sanctuary, because maybe it'll just do okay, or maybe we'll get the million sales that some people think we're going to get. Maybe we'll get the 3 million sales that some people think we're going to get. And if we do, well, we'll be launching all those other products, we'll be expanding the team, and we'll be remembering who our friends were. So thank you, Al, for helping us, and to all of our Patreons for helping us, and to the volunteers that we've had over the years. And you know who you are. There's heaps and heaps of people who have believed in us from the start, and they have given their time to support us, and it's going good. So thank you. Thanks, guys.
Do you ever just stop and pinch yourself and think, I'm actually doing this? This is actually happening. I'm making a game.
Not really. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess like I'm trying to do that consciously. It's just reminding myself of that like every day, right? Saying like, you realize you do have the coolest job on earth right now. And I was like, really? It just seems like lots and lots of crazy work. But yeah, it is it's cool. Okay. Let's be real.
The final part of that question, I think you've answered anyway. It was just how can you all actually afford to live? And of course, there is that consideration, isn't there? With people have expenses, and we haven't got a product yet. So,
right. Well, that's true. Well, the literal answer is we have investors who gave us money, and we pay people with that money. So that's literally how it happens. We, everyone slashed their rates. I slashed my rate, right? Everyone, we all come from different levels of experience and stuff like that. But everyone who works on the project just loves the project, right? It's cool. It's iconic. It has an identity. It's like, the game needs to be built, right? And most of the team was just working on this stuff in their spare time anyway. They were just working on other projects. This is what we do for fun, right? This is a hobby. This is playtime. So to get paid, like people are willing to slash their rates, and if they didn't, then we wouldn't get anywhere. That's the reality. So that's how you do it. And I think we talked about that in the crayons to creation thing as well. Is like, one thing that I find interesting to talk about is like, can you replicate this? Could you do it? Could you start a new project? Not an RTS, but like, some other thing, right? Like, I don't know, but I think that it would be really interesting to see people try, right? Because like what the space that we sit in, right, is a space where there's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of passionate people who want to work on something like this, and that comes from like, one, devs want to do it, players want to do it, and once investors start seeing, there's players with money, right, they see what you're doing, they're like, I want this too, right, I'm going to help. So I don't see why you can't do that in other games, because there's plenty of like old school titles to be excited about, and with huge fan bases. So you could do it.
So we've mentioned the crayons to creation video a couple of times, so it's either going to be linked up there or up there for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. It's a very, very good video that if you want to know how this project began, it's certainly worth a watch. Mike, I don't have any more questions for you today. Will you come back and do episode 3 with us at some point?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I did ask a question at the end of my last video with Steel, because I think it would be fun as a thing to do, is just to like ask my own question to the audience. So one question that I asked, I think in the last video with you, was how do you feel about AI art? So some people hate it, some people love it. I'm just curious, like, if we use it because, we don't have huge amounts of resources. And if that meant we could have like some comic book cutscenes and stuff, is that acceptable, or is that evil? So that was one question. The other question I asked in the other video was, what do you want for Kickstarter, man? Like, what is a cool, meaningful reward? I know some people out there, they want to support us. They've got $500. They'll buy at the crazy $500 tier. What do you want, man? Like, you want a Sanctuary keyboard? You want a mouse pad? You want a poster? We have ideas, but I would just love to hear with the people who actually have the cash, what they would consider a meaningful reward for their investment. One guy said, he just wants a mouse pad and 5 keys. And if that's it, that's fine, right? We can do that. But I'd rather do something nicer. Well, we'll see. So I'm interested in those 2 questions. I don't have a new question today. I guess I am just interested for all the Patreons, if they can just give their like feedback in the Patreon channel and Discord, and just like, any what they love and hate, that would be great.
Okay. So if you have answers, if you do have answers to those questions for Mike in terms of the inclusion of AI art in projects, I know that's quite a divisive thing as well. Then stick your answers in the comments below.
It actually wasn't that divisive though. If you read all the replies to that, it was like, seemed like pretty much everyone's like, yeah, you can use it. There were a few people who was like, no, right? Definitely, there were a few. But I would say 90% are like, they don't really care. There is another interesting, there's kind of like a hybrid one where you can actually draw pictures in 2D, right? Like in Photoshop, you can draw like a portrait or something, and then you can throw it to AI and they turn it into a 3D model for you. And now you can have cheap 3D models in your game. And that, like, we still did the art for that, right? That's our artist did the drawing, and although we automated part of the process, like, the whole creative part of it is us, right? And it's just a tool. So I think, like, my take on that is totally fine, because that's our art, right? That's not like, harvested by stealing all of DeviantArt or anything like that. That's just like a tool in the tool belt for creating art, and I think that one should be totally fine. But yeah, just interested in what the community thinks.
Okay. So throw your answers down below. Mike, thanks very much. I'll let you get back to work or back to life or whatever it is that you're doing this evening. Great talking to you, and we'll catch up again for episode 3 soon.
Thanks, Al. See you later.